Welcome to the Candle Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I am the Candle Business Coach. I'm also a mum of three and a kindness advocator. This podcast is all about making and selling candles, business development, and mindset, delivered to you with advice, inspiration, and motivation in a new episode every Friday. Are you a candle maker looking for support, strategy, and a like-minded community? Then you need to check out the Candle Makers Collective. The Candle Makers Collective is my exclusive membership where you get weekly live group coaching, expert guidance, and a supportive network of fellow candle makers so you never feel stuck or alone in your business. There's also an ever-growing library of helpful resources, including ebooks, social media guides, templates, and more. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Tonight we have another Candle Maker Connections episode. It's been a little while since the last one, and I'm so excited to share today's topic, which is all about market stalls. So if you are on the cusp of doing your first market, or maybe you've done a few and just want to dial in your setup and just learn some tips and tricks, this is definitely the episode that you want to listen to. And as per tradition, in our Candle Maker Connections episodes, we have quite a few candle makers with us tonight to share their tips and strategies with you. So let's go around the room and say hello to the listeners.
Hi guys, I'm Gina.
I'm George.
We're from Arati Naturals, and thank you for having us, Kirsty.
I'm Sue, and I'm from Revamped Treasures, and I have been making candles since 2011 and been at the market since 2017 consistently.
And I'm Jenny from Hampton Botanic, and I can't wait to hear what Sue's got to say with all of this wealth of experience.
Beautiful. Thanks for introducing yourself, everyone. So let's get stuck into it. Let's talk about, well, I guess Sue's already answered that. The first question is, how long have you been selling at markets for compared to how long you've been in business for?
For myself, they're the same thing. My business launched when I did my first market, and I'm still in business now. It's been 15 months approximately, and I'm still doing markets now. So I've been doing them consistently since I launched.
So we launched our business as well at markets in December 2023, which is roughly around the same timing as you, Jenny. We have done 50 to 100 days at market over the last 13 months.
Amazing. And for anyone out there that has a calculator and does the math on that, we can say that you've been pretty consistent with your markets as well, Gina.
Yeah, just a little bit.
What made you decide to start doing markets as opposed to purely online business?
For me, I'm just basically lazy, and I didn't want to get into posting candles online and going to the post office every second day. But I also felt that the candles and having them at market was a real way to connect with your candle addicts or your candle customers. And it just was easy. You know, I'm in the area. I don't have to travel too far. So it was a no-brainer for me. Too lazy to go to the post office all the time, but wanting to meet the people that are buying the candles.
Can I just say, Sue, you're definitely not lazy, because markets are way harder than going to the post office.
They probably are, but yeah, no. I just like going on that one day, getting it all over and done with on the one day, and, you know, then planning for the next market.
For us, that is how we launched our business. Again, about making those connections with customers, meeting people, seeing their reactions when they smell. I know myself, I don't purchase anything with a fragrance online, so I'm the kind of person that wants to smell. So yeah, that's how we decided to launch our business.
And what about you, Jenny?
In typical Jenny fashion, I didn't really give it much thought. It's just the way that it turned out. I'd moved to this new town, and they had a market coming up in, I think it was 3 or 4 months' time. I knew that I'd been working on my business for a really long time. I thought I'd probably be ready to have something to sell by then. So I signed myself up and then just worked towards it. And that was about it.
And out of all the different types of markets that you can go to, such as farmers markets and craft fairs and expos, where have you found, not the most success, but where have you found your your people? Is there a particular type of market, or it just depends on the day?
For me, like, I've done a lot of markets, but I think you have to pick the type of market. I find there's a real difference between a farmer's market, an actual craft market, and then a market that maybe has kids' rides and a movie showing or carols. So I think you really have to look at each market to work out what sort of crowd you're going to get at the markets. I also do pop-ups in shopping centres, which is very similar to the markets. They're also a completely different crowd again. So I think you just need to look at what you're selling at market to work out which market you want to go to. But I definitely have better success at craft markets and pop-ups in the shopping centres.
For me, it's definitely expos that I do best at. And I spent the year getting myself into every single market that I could possibly do, from really small community markets to big events. And I've found that what I do is quite niche. And so if I'm doing expos where I've already got my target audience there, then I tend to do a lot better, meet a lot more people who are interested in what I do.
I think for us, it's a mixture.
Yeah.
Expos, pop-ups.
At the end of the day, I think consistency is paying off for us right now. So the fact that we're doing markets on a consistent basis, we noticed early on that regular markets, like weekly markets that are held all the time, not so good. Monthly markets are probably the better choice for us, as well as our own pop-ups. Like the other ladies are doing it in shopping centres. We're doing it in smaller scale. We're not going to a full setup in a shopping centre yet, but outside of a little shopping village. And they seem to be working really well for us. Not to mention the events, the larger expos, we're starting to get more involved with them, and they're also starting to pay dividends.
Yeah, and I think for us as well, we did try a couple of foodies markets that weren't for us.
What I'm hearing from all of you is that you definitely need to try different things to see what you enjoy, where your customers are at, what's most profitable. But the main thing is to be consistent in whatever path you choose. If you want to sell at market, if you want to sell online, if you want to do a combination, you need to be consistent across the board, because if you're acting sporadic in your business, and this goes for most things in life, if you're not being consistent, if you're not building those habits and building in those routines, you're not going to have the results that you might be looking for, because you're not putting in as much effort on a consistent basis.
100%. And when you look at especially marketing with business, the more exposure that you get, the more people are actually going to recognize your brand, recognize your product, and then it builds that trust. So we have people that will see us at a pop-up on one day, won't come up to us, but then the next day when we're doing the market in the same area, then they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw you yesterday, I just didn't get a chance to come up. So that exposure and that consistency is super important, even to the point where when we try a new market, which we are trying a new one this month, we got approved for a new one, it's giving it a go and not just going by the first time. Give it at least 3 goes.
Such good advice, because, the weather might not be ideal on the first day, or there are a lot of variables to take into consideration. So it is important, as you say, Gina, to try, multiple times before making that decision to say, look, this is not for me, because it might take a few goes for that success to come in.
Definitely. I give it at least 3 times.
Yeah, 3 strikes and you're out.
Yep.
That's fair. All right, let's have a little chat about what to take to the market, what you actually need to have in the back of your car, ready to go. What are your must-have items to bring to market?
Everything.
Everything.
Thank you. The
Candles, number 1. Products.
A square.
Square card reader. Yep.
Yeah. So when I first started, I didn't have a square. I don't think they were as popular back then. The moment I took a square, I think my sales at least doubled, because everybody likes to use a card. So a square is a big, big thing. Also, because you have the little squares that you can buy from Officeworks, I know some makers that take 2 squares, because if the first one goes flat, they've got a second one, or if the first one's not working, then they can use the other one. So definitely a square. Obviously a good float, and at Christmas time or those busy seasons, a bigger float than usual, because everybody turns up early in the morning with a $50 note. And before you know it, you have no change left, but you love the cash. But the busy markets, or the markets you're going to get a big customer flow through, have a bigger float than usual.
The first thing that I think of to take, it's not really related to candle making at all, but plenty of water and snacks, but especially water, because snacks you can do without. But I tend to usually go through 2 litres of water a day at markets, and I'm not a big water drinker generally. And I made the mistake of only taking 1 litre with me for the first time, actually, on Saturday. I thought, oh, I'll be all right. It's indoors. It's not hot. I'll be fine. And I was parched. Because you're doing so much talking. You forget that you're going to be talking to people all day and lugging all of your stuff in from the car and setting up. That stuff's really physical. So plenty of water.
Yes, 100%.
Can I add to that too? You can take lots of water, but if you're by yourself, if you take too much water, you don't want to be racing off to the loo all the time. And when you're by yourself at a new market and you don't know anyone, you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I can walk away. So enough water, but not too much, especially if you're by yourself.
Yes, true. What about you, Gina and George? What do you think is essential to take?
Definitely what's been mentioned so far. Other than obviously your obvious things like your stock, your displays. We've done many a market without signage.
No, we don't really have signage. It's still a lacking part of our operation.
Your tablecloths, a chair, although we tend not to sit down much at market. It's pretty rare that we do sit.
Basically, really, you should have just a small checklist, something you can zap through, make sure you've got everything you need, which is what we do, and we still somehow miss things occasionally. So making sure your day is going to be comfortable enough that you can operate without having to step away too often.
Another thing that's important is weight, because obviously you need to weight your tent down, but you need to check before you go to market, because some people will use the pegs that you hammer into ground. And some markets have sprinkler systems. So if you wreck the sprinkler system, you're up for that expense. So weights that you don't hammer into the ground are really important.
Let's have a chat about what our market stalls actually look like, because there's so much creativity that you can bring into how to set up. It doesn't have to be just a white tablecloth and a table and your candles. You can be very playful with colours and styles and all the different things. So if you could all just explain what your stalls look like.
So initially when I first started at the markets, I started with tablecloths to the ground and a plain gazebo, no sign writing. And then my husband bought an old F-truck, a 1966 F-truck, which we quickly learned we could put wood in the back to create like a false floor. So we take that to market now. We pull up in the F-truck, we fold the tailgate down, and I set up in that. I still use the tent, but I've moved on to a sign-written tent now, which we had made here in Australia. So if it looks like rain, I'll take the tent. If it looks like it's going to be a sunny day, we'll take the old F-truck, which we call Effie. I can also put umbrellas in it, so like beach umbrellas. So it shades the stock. We park underneath a tree, and I use old boxes to stand the candles up on. So I am always changing how it looks. It's never presented the same way twice. But the truck is amazing because it draws the people over. Even if they don't buy a candle, they come in and they look and they chat and then they remember me. So the truck is definitely a bonus, but that's a little bit extravagant, I will admit. But, you know, my husband bought it, so I use it, and, yeah, it's great.
I've only seen pictures of it, but it's such a vibe. It's so
I think I've got to go look up pictures now.
Yeah, it just encapsulates the essence of your business so well.
Yeah, it does look good. I love it. And I say out of all of our cars, that will be the one we never sell. And we've actually got it sign written now. So the Revamped Treasures is written on the doors, and we cruise around town in it. And it's very popular at market with the men. The men love it. So they come over, their wives come over, their wives start looking at the candle. I have people stop taking photos with it. Little kids, you know, little boys come up and they want to look inside of it. So it's a big attraction.
Mine is nothing so extravagant, but it's still far from plain, I would say. Unsurprisingly, I'm a person who's full of colour. And so when it came time for me to buy my first marquee, they had the option of white or pink. And I thought, well, pink, obviously. My brand colours are pink, purple and green, and it suited me so well. And so I bought that, and it really stands out at markets. It's often the only pink one there. And if there's another pink one, mine's the only pink one of that colour. And if it's a nighttime market, market, I decorate it with like little flower fairy lights and ivy. I can hang things off the side of it. I have a sign on my tablecloths, and my tablecloths are a really big talking point at markets. I just bought this beautiful fabric, probably maybe a year and a half before I launched the business. I just found this gorgeous fabric and tucked it away in the cupboard, and then had Mum make it into tablecloths for me. I knew I'd need it for something. I thought maybe I'd make a robe out of it, but it turned out it was for the tablecloths, and they're just beautiful. And I have my canvas sign stuck on the front of it. It all fits in with the theme of my brand as well. It's all very botanical and kind of artsy and just very much my vibe.
And what about Gina and George? How would you describe your stall?
Ours is very clean, minimalist.
Simple yet elegant.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it.
So we've got our white marquee, which, just as a tip for people, I highly recommend going for a white marquee over a black one if you're choosing between the two. Otherwise, colourful is amazing. But white, because it bounces the light off your products when it's sunny. We've got our white tablecloths with our logo and our business name on there. We don't have any signage yet. 13 months later, we're still trying to find the time to do that. But we've got our wooden boards with our products on there, which goes really well with our white jars and bamboo lids.
And from the timber display side, we went a bit custom. We went to Bunnings and got some timber on special, which had a natural wave in it, cut them down to size, put some legs onto them, which we can attach and detach so they don't get damaged. And from the get-go, we had a lot of people commenting on them. And whilst that's slowed down, it's still a little bit of a talking point for some because it is different. It's not your typical acrylic or ready-to-go, ready-made stands.
Feel free to be creative with your displays.
Yes, absolutely. You don't want to blend into everyone else's display. You want to stand out, but still be on brand, but you need to know what your brand is. You need to know what your vibe is. You need to feel comfortable in expressing that rather than feeling like it has to look a certain way. And one of the things I love that you've all said is that it's still a work in progress. You don't have to have it all figured out from the very first market. You don't have to have all your supplies ready to go. Sometimes, it'll evolve as you do more markets. You'll realize, okay, I actually need this item, or I don't need to bring this next time. It's a moving, piece of the puzzle rather than you have to have all the answers from the start. And if you don't have the answers, yeah, absolutely. It's constantly evolving. And that's part of the fun is that as you grow as a candle maker and as you grow as a business person, you'll then become more aware of the things that you do need and what's essential and what's not.
Yeah, with each market, it also just shows that you don't know what you can really plan for. We did a market just over the weekend where the previous month we had sold 20 of one fragrance. We came down this time and only sold 8 of that same fragrance. And all the other ones that usually aren't fast movers were the ones that were selling. So just when you think you've got it figured out, you don't.
Yeah. They're unpredictable markets, aren't they?
They are.
Sure are.
So just going back then to, the essentials or things that we recommend to take, I think it's really important to have a kit set aside with things like sticky tape, glue tack, cleaner if you use chalkboards, chalk markers, texters in case your chalk markers don't work and you need to write something on a piece of paper, cardboard, have a sort of a stationery kit or a little office supplies kit with Velcro in case something happens to the sides of your tents and it's sunny and you don't want your candles to melt. It's really good to have a kind of like a first aid kit.
Band-Aids, safety pins.
Yes, Band-Aids, safety
pins. Extra pins.
Yeah.
Take more than what you think.
Keep it in a tub or in a bag and keep it aside and never take from it when you're just looking for a pen at home or blue. No, that's just your business one that goes to markets with you and don't touch it otherwise.
I also take lights in the daytime because my husband works on cars. He had a light that fits underneath the bonnet so it stretches the actual frame that it's on. So when I'm at market in the tent, we actually put 2 up on either side of the tent, and because the glassware is shiny and pretty and it catches the light, it just illuminates it and it looks amazing. So regardless of whether it's a nighttime market or a daytime market, whenever I take the tent, I put the lights up and it just lights the glassware up, and that makes it more attractive too. People come in, oh, look how pretty that looks. So, yeah, the under the bonnet lights, and they're rechargeable, and I have used them to death.
I'm going to add to that because you just reminded me, Sue, an awning for those really sunny days. Yep. We just got one a few months ago, and it really protects the candles from the sun when they're, like, depending obviously in what direction you're facing your product. But I think that's made a big difference to us. So a marquee awning.
Not only that, but it also makes a big difference to the customer, because whilst they're not stepping into your space if they don't want to, you've provided a shaded area of which you can engage.
Have you ever had dramas at markets with that? Like some markets, they like you all to be in a straight line with nothing out past your stall. You've never had any issues with that?
No.
Well, the one market which we primarily do now, we're basically set aside from everyone else. We're in our own little spot, and there's nobody that could set up on either side of us.
When it comes to running a market stall, how do you interact with your customers and potential customers?
I think you get a vibe as they're coming up. Don't you agree, Jenny? They walk up and you'll try to eye contact, smile, engage, but some people don't want to, their heads down. So you really do get a vibe on how to talk to each customer. And it is important to talk to each customer, because sometimes I've had somebody walk up and I thought, oh, they're never going to buy one of my candles. And they end up buying 3, like I've sort of thought, no, they don't look like my candle addict. And then they surprise me. So it's always worth putting the effort into every single person, as long as they let you. You don't want to put yourself onto people.
Yeah, I think it's so important to try to read the behavior and the body language of your customers. And you can tell if they look up at you and give you a smile, it's sort of open. You think, oh, just say hello and then see where things go. But you can tell sometimes people don't want to talk. And that's fine, because if I'm shopping, most of the time I don't want to talk to people either. It depends. If I'm at a market stall and it's something I'm interested in, then perhaps. But I think it's really important to give people space just to browse and to be in the background if that's what they want, but to be available for them if they want to engage, and to let them know that you're ready and you're there if they want to. But the most important thing is to be able to connect with your customers, talk to people, even if they don't want to buy anything. If you talk to them, like Gina was saying earlier, it's all that kind of marketing exercise that you're doing. And so it might not be today that they buy something, but they might remember that you were nice to them that day. And then they see you 2 months later and they think, oh, I'm ready.
I remember her
today.
Definitely. And I know for us, our biggest thing is about creating those connections. If you come up to our store, you are welcome to just look, to just smell. There is no expectations of anyone. We treat everybody exactly the same. We have the same conversation up to 500 times in one day. But it's just creating that connection with customers.
It's also allowing them to know that they're feeling safe being there. They're not being pressured into buying anything. If they want to smell every fragrance and not buy anything, that's their choice. Go for it. We're not going to stop you. If you want to smell every room spray, we'll spray every tester strip for you. Go for it. It's at least giving you something to think about for the next time if you don't buy that time. And a number of our customers have come back because of that. They've remembered that we're there and they liked the fragrance. They came back and bought. We had a family that stopped past as we're closing up on Monday, or as we're about to finish up on Monday, and I think they were going to buy anything. They ended up buying 3 candles and 2 room sprays.
Just from a connection and
20 minutes of talking and getting to know what they're after and pointing out some fragrances, and before you know it, we didn't expect it and they bought.
I said before that markets are so unpredictable, not just the weather and all the outside variables, but customers and how they behave and what their expectations are. And you don't always know how much budget people have to spend at your store. And as you say, Gina, just treat everyone the same. Treat everyone with kindness, as good people do, and the results always will surprise you.
I think it's so important as well for yourself, for your soul and your sense of well-being, to make those connections, because you might have a day where people aren't buying things. And so you've got to be able to let that go and not take that as a failure and think, oh, well, at least I spent the day connecting with people and talking to people. So at least you'll always get something out of it, if that's your attitude, I think.
And I think being genuine too, like we all love what we do. And when you're genuinely engaging and talking about what you love, I think people feel that back too. So not trying to sell, but just being genuine about the products.
Yes. That is so true, because I've noticed whenever we can see each other, obviously listeners can't see us, but our faces are all lighting up when we're talking about our products and about doing market. It is
100%.
being genuine.
It's a passion-driven experience too when you're doing it with somebody you're just first meeting, let alone returning customers.
And you never know where the ripple effects will take that person's journey after you've shown literally your light to them, because you're so passionate about what you do. It might even have just such an impact on them and the rest of their day. So even if you don't make a sale, the transactions aren't the only reason that you're there. It's to make those connections with your audience, with your community, both local and potentially online if they then follow you online. What would you say to the candle makers listening that are a little bit nervous about doing their first market? They're not so confident or comfortable speaking to strangers that walk past their store. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling a little bit anxious?
I can remember when I first started, I was so anxious and nervous and, butterflies, and I felt like I was going to vomit. And my husband just looked at me and said, love, just take it for what it is. If you make one sale, that's fabulous. So you just got to go with the flow, I think. You will be nervous, but if you don't try it, you won't know.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to answer how you felt.
So when we first started, I have zero retail experience as a background. I've dealt with customers through businesses, but not directly person to person in terms of selling. And I can tell you now, I was nerve-wracked to the point where if Gina stepped away for a short break for 5 minutes, I'd be petrified if a person came up. But that petrified mentality slowly shifted. And now if 10 people come up and I'm standing there by myself, I could do that happily for the next 2 hours and it wouldn't bother me. So it's just time, experience, learning how to cope with it. Sometimes it can still be overwhelming, if you have an influx of people, but with time you'll learn how to cope with everything and how to have people deal with you when you're there. Just saying, feel free to ask any questions. You don't have to give everyone the whole spiel. If there's 5 people standing there and you can give it all in one hit, you're laughing. If not, work them slowly but surely and see what happens.
And I think that people should stay true to themselves in that as well. Well, you will be nervous, as everybody said. You'll be nervous and you'll be okay. You'll get through it. You'll feel terrible at the beginning and all of a sudden you'll be talking to someone and it will feel better, or you'll make your first sale and it will feel better, and you will make a sale. It will be fine. But it's always that mentality of nobody's going to buy anything and what have I done all this for? And it's always fine. But if you're the kind of person who's really scared about talking to people as well, then you can just think about how you would like to be approached. If you're a customer at a market, how do you want someone to talk to you? Do you want them to just make eye contact? Maybe just say hello. Like do what's within the realm of what feels achievable for yourself. Don't try and be someone that you're not. Just stay true to yourself. People are always going to appreciate that. Even if you're not super chatty, when you meet the right people to connect with, a conversation will come anyway. So try not to put too much pressure on yourself to be something that you think you should be.
Who would have thought that running a business meant that you had to grow personally when you're journeying as well? Because that's the thing, like if something like running a market stall feels overwhelming to you or seems really scary, it's actually an opportunity for you to lean into that feeling and to grow. Even though, you'll get the butterflies, you might get a little bit sweaty, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit anxious. Just think what it's going to feel like at the end of the market after you've made some sales, you've made some connections and you've done it. You can be proud of yourself and it'll give you that motivation and excitement to do another market, and then you'll build that consistency in that avenue of your business. But what do we do when the market day is slow and there's not many customers either visiting our particular stall or there's just not many customers coming to the market? What do you guys do?
We've started taking our wick tabs and doing a bit of work and, make use of that time. You've got to do the task anyway. So whether it be, I don't know, labeling room spray boxes, sticking wick tabs onto wick tabs, cutting wicks.
Prepping wicks.
We try not to be on our phones at a market stall. I know myself as a customer, there is nothing that I can't stand more than when I walk up to a stall and someone's head is buried in their phone and they don't acknowledge me. So we very rarely on our phones other than to take payments. If it's really super slow and you've done all your wick tabs and you've done all your prep work, take some photos, do some posting on Instagram, do all the social media stuff that you don't get time to do, or start reading a marketing book.
True. That's such a good advice. Or listen to, really awesome podcasts about candles.
I told you, that's our drive to and from work.
Totally, yeah.
You and I have a date every day.
I love it. So good. What about you, Sue? What do you do when the market is slow?
I do take photos. I play around with the stock. I take photos for Instagram, Facebook. And yes, I try not to be on the phone either. So as soon as somebody approaches, I put my phone down. But it's a good opportunity to take photos, but also sometimes reels. I'll do a quick, 5-minute reel doing something silly with the candles. I usually have my sister-in-law is usually with me. So we work as a tag team. So if somebody's there, she'll go and help them or I'll put the phone down, but she'll hold the phone for me. We've even tried to do a live at the market, go live. It was so bad. The wind was blowing. I didn't have a mic. So we ended up creating a reel and posting that. But yeah, photos, big thing, photos, lots of photos. And especially if it's something you're trying to put front and centre for the day, I'll take a photo of, say, the diffusers if they're right at the front and them doing a post. So yeah, I'm not that forward planning to do the wicking, but definitely the photos work for me.
I usually like to take a little bit of busy work as well, some labels that need to be done, like something small, lip balms that need to be labeled, or some labels I need to slice up, and just something small like that, so that it doesn't matter if I have to stop partway through. If somebody comes, I'm not super engaged in it, I can just pop it aside and it's not a big event. That's pretty much it. I'm rarely on my phone either, and I probably should be a little bit more taking photos, for example. I'm not great with doing those things. So photos and videos I'll try and do a little bit more of. I think I stand around looking pleasant, and then as it gets a little bit later on in the day, I'm running around talking to the neighbours. So as long as I can keep an eye, because I'm always there alone, pretty much. Maybe once or twice a year I get somebody to come with me, but otherwise I'm pretty much always at the markets alone. And I find so much saviour in talking to my neighbours. I've met incredible fellow stall holders, and especially the candle makers. I always go and suss them out and engage with them, and, you know, tell them how beautiful their stuff is and ask them how they've done this, and, you know, let them know we're colleagues, we're not competitors. And I've just made some really great friends that way, which helps the days go faster. And if it's a slow day, you know, one of you will bring up at some point, are you having many customers? Because I'm not having many customers. No, I'm not. And so then, you know, you're not alone, and you just build this network. And now I'm seeing the same people at markets who I've, you know, I might have seen them 2 months ago, I might have seen them 6 months ago, but I'm building a little network of market friends and market buddies, and it's so nice.
Market buddies are the best.
Yes.
They are.
I love how you said that your colleagues, not competitors, because in the collective and just in the candle business coach world, we've always said it's community over competition. And it's so true, because sometimes you can go to the market, you can set up your stall, it can look really pretty, and then you see another candle maker and you think, oh, my stall doesn't look like that. And you can be a bit hard on yourself, or they've got more customers at their stall than I do. But go over there, make a friend. Like, you know, obviously you've got the same passions, the same values. Make a friend, build those connections, build your market buddies and your network. And again, you just don't know where that could lead to, maybe a collaboration project down the line, or just a beautiful friendship. Hello, my friend. Are you ready to level up your candle business? I've put together an ebook called 10 Proven Strategies to Scale Your Candle Business. And the best part, the ebook is completely free. So whether you're just starting out or looking to boost your existing business, the strategies and tips in this 9-page ebook will help you attract more customers, increase your revenue, and grow with confidence. Check out the link in the show notes to download your copy. How have we found success with upselling and cross-selling? Now, this is obviously a sales tactic and is a way to bring up your average order value, but do you feel icky when you try and upsell, or is it just a natural part of the conversation? Talk me through your process.
Because we have a larger array of fragrances to choose from, plus room sprays to match everything, we have a lot of customers that generally toss up between 1, 2, and 3 candles or room sprays. And in short, we just try and work them towards their favorite. But if they're still keen on the second one, it's basically an easy sell. You just say, well, we're only here once a month, or we're here, you know, next month. You could always buy 2 now, try another one later. Sometimes they sell themselves into the idea as well without even having to try. But we do definitely start to see now a lot more of the 2, 3, and 4 item purchases than what we did at the start. So our sales itself has grown because of the way we've adapted to the business and managing and dealing with customers.
And I think looking at it as solving a problem, you're not selling, you're solving a problem. They need candles or room sprays or diffusers. The problem that I'm trying to solve is, do I have the fragrance that you want or the product that you want? You know, what kind of product is it that you're after? Sure, we also have it in this. So I think trying to be comfortable with that and not feeling icky. I don't feel icky. We had recently, I think it was last weekend, someone was like, oh, I want all of them, but I can't do it today. And it's like George said, it's okay. We're back next month. We're in the same spot every month. You can try these 2 today and get the other 2 next month.
Takes that pressure off.
Yep.
Everyone takes the pressure off, both the customer who maybe in their mind trying to figure out their budget if they can afford it. And it also means for you as the candle makers, the business owners, to say, look, you know, we're here next month. Like there's no pressure from us. We're not trying to hard sell you anything.
Exactly.
It's also, if they're a first-time buyer, you're not going to make them feel like they have to buy the 2. You can try the one, see what you think. If you like our product, come back and try the other one next time. And we had a customer like that. She was iffy. Even though his sister had bought one, they lived together and she obviously knew, but she was still questioning. She bought one, came back the next month, told us she's obsessed with our candles, and then bought 2.
What about you, Sue? How do you promote cross-selling, upselling, or do you just let it come naturally?
Tough question. I have, let me say, A friend of mine who's an earring maker, she never ever gives discount on her earrings. But what she does is she may have a giveaway range. So when somebody comes and buys 5 sets of earrings, she'll throw in a little $10 pair for free. And very early on, when we were selling together at pop-ups, I watched her do that and it really worked well. So when somebody comes and buys a few products, a candle, a diffuser, 2 or 3 things, maybe $100 sale, I'll ask them if they've got a soy melter at home. Now, 9 out of 10 people do, so I'll give them a free soy melt. So my soy melts are $7, so they get to pick out whatever they like, and then they take it home. And I have picked up a lot of customers that now come and buy my soy melts because I gave them a free one to begin with. The other thing I do, which isn't really upselling, but when somebody comes and I know they're genuinely interested in buying something, I'll ask them the question, is it for you or is it a gift? Because then that leads into other questions. It's for me. Okay, do you like sweet or do you like earthy? What sort of jar shape do you like? Or if it's a gift, what age bracket are you looking at? Are they 60? Are they 20? So that then leads into other areas where we can work out what they want. So that's the sort of 2 things I concentrate. A little freebie if they buy a few things, or I ask them to join the Candle Addicts, which is a private page. So then they get a private invitation to the page and they get to see everything first, or they get offers or discounts. At Christmas time, we had gift vouchers for every customer that spent over a certain amount of money. I would give them a gift voucher to 10% of the value of what they've bought. So I've had people bringing them back. So that brings them back again. So there's lots of different things you can do.
What about you, Jenny? How do you upsell, cross-sell, sell?
I would say I've never actively tried to upsell. I'm not a natural salesperson. I would rather just give everything to everybody for free. I've been thinking about it while everybody's been talking, and I do have a couple of methods, actually. One of them is almost a reverse psychology, I think. If people are looking at one of my candles, if they're looking at a large candle and they're having a think about it, or they're having a smell, but you can just tell, I say, well, I've also got it. I've got this little size as well. I've got the small one. It's only $17, and they'll have a look at it and they know that option's there, but often people will end up buying the large one because they'll see that it's better bang for the buck, better value for them. So that's one, by trying to tell people they don't need to buy the big one and they'll end up buying the big one. And the other is more with my skincare products, which I do, as well as candles. I'll mention a complementary product, so a clay face mask that I make, and I say to them, it's really nice if you mix it with a face oil. And I won't mention that I sell a face oil, but then I've had actually several customers say, oh, do you have one? I say, oh, yeah, of course. And so then I'll sell them that. And so now I've started to bundle that together because I've seen that people want that, but it's not in my nature. And I do feel it doesn't make, I don't try to upsell. And I've been listening to what you all have been saying and trying to come up with ways that I can do it that feel good for me as well.
Jenny, that sounds really genuine. You're not upselling, you're just being, great product, mix it with this.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just also to quickly touch on what you ladies are saying, we first learned this early on as well. Not that we're trying to make it pushed as such, but the idea of saying we've got 2 sizes available, the large and the medium. Now, saying the large first promotes the idea of buying the larger size. It's also, if they have the medium readily available in front of them to grab, but if we're in a position to, we'll hand them the large so they can smell that versus the medium. So you're not pushing it, but you're already putting it in their mind that the value for money aspect and the idea is to go for the large. So just something small like that without actually putting it in words.
The power of suggestion. I do that, actually. If somebody asks, because I encourage people to just pick up whatever they want and smell it and play with it. But sometimes if they ask for a suggestion, I always do pick up the big one and get them to smell that. So there you go. There's something that I'm trying to do.
Sounds like you've all got some good strategies and tips on being, as you say, Sue, very genuine in your approach, but also still thinking I'm a business owner and I need to make this worth my time as well. So very strategic there. I love that. How do you guys promote when you go into a market? Do you promote on socials, an email list? Do you, send out carrier pigeons? Like, how do you promote?
We haven't tried to carry a pigeon yet.
Try that smoke signal.
Paper planes.
Complaints, yeah.
For us, it's Instagram and Facebook. So I basically post onto Instagram what we're doing for the month. So we are booked now into April. So we know exactly what we're doing every single weekend for the next 3 months. So I actually posted it, I think it was at like 12:30 last night. So for everything in February. And then what I'll do the week of is share that as a story. Very simple, putting a little circle, highlighting that weekend where we're going to be.
It's also a word of mouth thing. When we're at markets, people ask us whether if we do that market all the time or if we turn up at other places, and we tell them where we're going to be for the following weekend or the next month. Because if they're locals to our area versus where we're at the time, they might come and pay us another visit. Like a lot of the customers on the weekend, even though we're down the south coast, they're from Sydney where we are. So they could always make that 10-minute drive versus that hour and a half drive.
Just to add on to that very quickly, if you don't have Instagram followers, one thing that we've adopted is saying if you have Instagram or Facebook, feel free to follow us. We post where we're going to be every week. That's a good way to build your followers, and that way you'll get in front of them where you're going to be.
I do Facebook and Instagram as well. To a less professional degree. I don't know about stories and reels yet. I'm not big on those. This is my year of getting online and getting techie, but it's the same. Yeah, I'll promote the events. And I do it differently on my business page. I'll do it on my personal page as well and just have slightly different language for it.
I'm the same. I use Instagram and Facebook. I have a web page, which I think we probably all have. I always put on my web page where I'm going to be for the people that aren't on Instagram and Facebook. Some people don't like social media, so you need to have that other place to put it. And again, like Gina and George, I will talk about it at the market. When somebody comes, I'll say, I always post it on my webpage if you're not on social media, but I have had feedback where, you'll put a post up, but you don't get a lot of comments or likes, but you'll still at market, people will come up and say, we came today because we knew you were here. We seen your Facebook post. And I do a little happy dance because I thought nobody's seen it. And also, I think it's important, especially with Facebook, you need to post at least, I would say, 7 days before a market, because a lot of times Facebook takes a while to show it to people. So I follow other makers and I know they're at the market because they're with me, but I don't see their posts until 2 days after the market because they've only just posted it a few days before. Don't do it the night before, 2 days before. You need to do it at least 5 days before.
It's so important to spread the word when you are doing a market, because you can't rely on the market organisers to do the marketing for you. They're doing it for all the stallholders. If you've got people that follow you that will come to the market, if you're at a market, you need to tell them when you're at a market. So being prepared, sharing that information as early as possible is definitely key.
I also tell people when I'm not going to be at a market. If it's a regular market, if I'm on holidays, I'll put a post up, really sorry, I'm not going to be at the market, but there's so many great makers there, you should still go visit. I think that's important too.
All right. So in terms of going to markets in general, how often should we go? Is it I'll do it when I feel like it? Should I go every single weekend? Should I go twice a week or once a month? What strategies have worked for you? And what do you think the candle maker that hasn't quite started their market journey, what advice would you give in terms of frequency?
My advice would be decide what you want from your business and work backwards. So what do you want to achieve throughout your, whether it be calendar year or financial year when it comes to your markets, or even so far as the next 3 months or next 6 months? What goal do I have? How am I going to achieve it? And then work backwards. So for us, as you would have heard on our podcast recording, we made a decision last year to go all in. All in means working 7 days a week, 5 days a week at a full-time job, and every night in our space, and weekends are events. Weekends are for expos, pop-ups, markets, whatever it is. And that's not to say that if you only want to do one market a month, that's fine. If that's what your goal is, there is nothing wrong with that. For us, we are consistent at one market. We do a pop-up at the same place. We're now starting to do a pop-up monthly at another location, and we've just picked up another monthly market. And the rest of the time is filled with, we're doing the Mind Body Spirit Festival in 2 weeks. But yeah, my piece of advice would be, what's your goal for the next, whether it be month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and work backwards and then decide how many you want to do. But if it's a monthly market, try and be consistent. It's about that exposure. The more the people see you, the more they're going to trust you and your brand.
What about you, Jenny?
It's a little bit of a how long is a piece of string sort of question, but I think you've got to, think about what's going to work for you and commit to what works for yourself. One thing I can say is that personally, I find markets quite addictive. As soon as I did my first one, I was terrified in the morning, as I was saying earlier, really, really scared. And by that afternoon, I think I was like, where can I book in for the next one? I was so ready to just keep booking them. They are physically exhausting and they can be quite emotionally and spiritually draining. So factor that in. It just depends on what's available to you. It depends on where you live as well. I live in a really small town. There's not a lot local to me. I'm almost always going to have to travel. So I need to factor that in. But for me, a market a week is a great goal. 2 markets a week for a special occasion. As long as I'm doing a couple a month, I'm pretty happy. Ideally, I'd be doing markets 5 days a week, but there just aren't that many available to me. It's something that you'd need to decide for yourself, and you may just want to do the first one and see how you feel about it, and then see how often do I think I could do this realistically, because it's not just the day that you're at the market. There's so much prep to get ready for the market. And the more regularly you're doing markets, the more well-stocked you are and the less prep there is for each one. Whereas if you're only doing them once every 2 or 3 months, you've kind of got to do full prep each time. Whereas when I'm doing markets every week or twice a week, all of my stuff is just there, ready to go, into the car, out of the car, in the car, out of the car. We got the system.
I really love what Gina said before about looking at what you're going to do, what you want to achieve out of it. And I sort of went the opposite way. I did look at what I wanted to achieve out of going to the markets, and I thought to myself, I don't want to do every market, so I just chose a couple of markets to do, because one piece of advice I got given when I first started selling at markets was, don't go to every single market in your area, because people will go, are you at next week's market? And they would just buy it at next week's market. So I have a couple of monthly markets I do, and then people know that I'm not going to be at the one down the road or the one next weekend. So I do think you need to look at what you want to achieve. I only ever wanted to be a candle maker in my local area, so I don't tend to go outside too much. I do sometimes go to a different town and have a little weekend away and do a market there, but I tend to stick to the same markets, be very, very consistent at those markets. Recently, I was at a market. We just had Christmas markets. It was a January market, and it was a new maker at the market. And the market stall people said to me, can you just befriend the lady next to you? She's quite new at the market. I said, yeah, no dramas. I can do that. And so we're chatting away, and she said, oh, I don't know about this market. I sold out last month completely, and now there's like hardly any sales. It was a January market. She sold out at Christmas time, which is a fair call, but not every market is going to be big like that. So I think pick your markets and realise that not every market is going to be a Christmas market.
You can't compare January sales to December sales anyway.
She was a new maker.
I remember my first January market after doing my first Christmas 2023, the same as Gina and George. My first January market, and I wasn't beside myself, but I just thought, what's going on here? And then I spoke to one of I think it was maybe my 3rd market ever by then as well. And I spoke to one of the other makers, and I said, we don't normally do markets at all in January. We usually take a month off. Which gave me 2 thoughts. 1, okay, be aware that there might not be as many sales in January. But 2, a lot of makers are going to take the month off from doing markets in January. So you might find your audience there as well. So it can go either way. But it's really good to be aware of that, because that's something that you don't know until you've experienced it.
We were actually one of those makers that wanted to take all of this January off. That didn't happen. So for January, we stuck to our one market, and the rest were special event.
That we got invited to primarily.
Yeah, that we got invited to. But I also want to touch on what Sue said about weekly market. We won't do weekly market. Some of the farmers markets that we had tried early on were weekly. Wasn't our jam.
No, mind you, it's not like because we did them weekly. We only tried them one time in December, one time in January. What we noticed was that the customer base isn't there every week because they know the market's on every week. So even though you might turn up once a month, because the market's on every week, they've gotten their groceries, they've gotten their bits and pieces they wanted the week before, the week after, whatever it be, they're not turning up as frequently. So the one-off once a month markets are where people are always waiting to turn up to them, especially the market we do down the South Coast. It's always anticipated. Everyone's already waiting. There's already customers there at 8 o'clock in the morning when people are just starting to arrive to put their marquees up. So they've already got a good foundation of customers waiting to get in.
Yes, that is such a good point. And if a market is highly anticipated, people tend to spend a little bit more as well because they know this is my chance to buy up all the things that I want from this market. So a few things to consider when looking at frequency. I want to know from each of your perspectives, what is the best thing about running a market stall?
I think it's that customer engagement, customer experience. The first time, especially, they're turning up to our stand. You see the smiles on their faces because they might be able to smell us from 20, 30, 50 meters away.
In a good way.
Yeah, smell you or the candles?
Yeah, the candles, the stall. I'd like to hope we smell good too, but I'll admit the product smells better in some cases. But as an example, we had a garlic prawns and chorizo stand that told us he could smell our product over his cooking all day. So
we thought he was lying, but he wasn't.
That was rather cool to hear, but it's the engagement with the customer. It's the smiles on the faces. Sometimes the nose that gets turned up because they dislike a fragrance, but that's the joy in seeing everyone's reactions. Everyone does have a different sense and different perception of smell. Some people love a fragrance, some people don't. But it's just that engagement, that fun, the very first time especially.
Yeah. I agree.
I absolutely say exactly the same thing. I love the engagement with the candle addicts. I have made some wonderful friends through customers. I love it when you have a first-time buyer and then they come back and they bring their friend or their sister and they're all raving mad, like, oh, we love your candles, that sort of thing. So customer engagement and repeat customers. I love repeat customers. And again, they come along, they buy a couple of candles, I'll give them a little melt or something nice so they feel the love back, every time somebody buys one, it's like, woohoo. So I love all of those things. And the comments, like I can smell your candles over the garlic prawns. All of those things, we should be keeping a book and writing those down and using them for social media posts. I could smell your stand before I seen you, or, anything your stand is amazing. All of that is so much good value for social media posts.
It's a valid point.
What about you, Jenny? What do you love most about markets?
I'm feeling quite emotional listening to Gina and George and Sue's responses. So bear with me. Emotional feature.
Oh, my Jenny, don't worry.
We all are. We're creative, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
I've just recently started and also left a part-time job where I really didn't feel valued. And there's something so special about coming up with an idea, creating something with your own hands, making something based on your own intuition and having people come and love it, whether or not they buy it. And people do. People will buy the stuff that you have lovingly and painstakingly created. But even if they don't buy it, people will engage with you and let you know what they think about it. And it's completely changed the way that I feel about myself. I think running a market stall has been life-changing for me.
Oh, Jenny.
Love that.
That's beautiful.
You've made me cry too.
Oh. But you wouldn't have even known or realized before you started your journey the impact that it would have, that ripple effect on your own life, let alone the people that you come into contact with.
I had no idea. I mean, like I said earlier, I booked my first market without really giving it a thought. And my life is different.
Yeah.
And it will be going forward. And I know that it's a place. When I go to markets now, that's a place where I'm myself entirely and I feel so comfortable and secure in what I'm doing. And it's a blessing, and I look forward to every market now.
It's a happy place.
It's a happy place.
Happy place, regardless of whether you sell a candle or not. It's a happy place.
Yes.
That's beautiful, Jenny. Thank you so much for sharing and being so genuine and raw and vulnerable, and just so beautiful in sharing how you have experienced markets and what it has meant for you, because we're all creatives here. We love what we do. We're very passionate about what we do. And I think the listeners, the people that are hearing this episode, it will resonate so deeply with them because it's part of their journey too. What advice would you give to someone just in general about markets?
Can I go first?
Go for it, Sue.
I think it's good that you keep a list of what you sell. every week, and from one market to another, it can change. But then you see what you're not selling. So something that you think you loved, I think you said this the other day, Jenny, there was a smell that you loved, you thought it'd go off at market and it didn't. And that happens to me too. You know, I'll make a candle and think it's amazing, but just because you love it doesn't mean it's going to sell at market. But it may not sell at that market. And like Gina and George said before, you know, they had something that sold really well at one market, but then, you know, it wasn't on the big seller on the next market. So keep a list. That's so important. And then you can work out what your best sellers are and then concentrate on those.
What about you, Gina and George?
Have fun. Like Jenny was saying, it's your product. And I think at the end of the day, that's why we're all here on the Candle Business Coach podcast, because we want to learn how to market our product. I think taking your product to market as a creative person, knowing that people love it, knowing that you're getting your repeat customers, is like there's just something about it. There's word, you can't describe it.
It increases your passion towards what you're doing, which in turn increases how much you're willing to put into it. The more you put into it, the more it shows, especially in a market where people see you face to face. If you show how passionate you are about your product, the more inspired they might be towards buying. The more they might realize that you've got a quality product rather than just something that's popped up randomly at a market that they've never seen you at before.
Yes, that
Exactly.
passion, fun, it comes across. You can be as organized as you want, but if you're not having fun and enjoying yourself, you're going to deter people from coming up to you. So I believe in energy flow, and when you're having fun, you're going to attract the right customers and the right people to your stand.
Yes, 100%. And then, Jenny, to round us out, what advice would you like to share with someone who is about to go to their first market?
I think that my advice follows on really nicely to be yourself. Do it your way. If you feel like you're a bit of a freak in some ways, embrace that, because it's what's unique about you that's what's going to draw people to you. There are a lot of candle stalls out there. There are different things that we can all do with our candles, and we all are doing really different things with them. But at the end of the day, people really are buying from you. So don't be afraid to be yourself. The more you do it, the more you'll be able to embrace it and feel comfortable with it. And that's going to be your greatest strength.
Thank you so much, Sue, Gina, George, and Jenny, for being on this episode of our Candle Maker Connections market episode. It's been a real joy and privilege chatting to all of you and hearing your wisdom and advice and tips and strategies and tricks when it comes to markets. For the listeners that would like to get in touch with any of you or all of you, would you like to share where we can find you online?
I have Revamped Treasures on Facebook and also on Instagram, and a web page, Revamped Treasure Candles, on the web.
Amazing. So I'll pop your links in the show notes. What about you, Gina and George? Where can we find you online?
Our website is www.aretiinaturals, so it's ARETII naturals.com.au, and our handle on all social media is @aretiinaturals.
Perfect. And Jenny, where can we find you online?
I can be found at hamptonbotanic.com.au and Hampton Botanic on Instagram and Facebook.
Well, thank you all again so much. I can't wait for the listeners to hear this episode and get some wonderful feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to this episode. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout the conversation, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're feeling inspired, I would love it if you would write a review for the podcast and give a 5-star rating. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.